Hey guys, we're back again. Just waiting on my commentary partner. In the meantime, we'll look over this Twitter poll. To the surprise of no one, Julian Nav is 58% to win the stretch, with Bob Huang at 21%, Mack Doyle at 13%, and Rudy at 8%. No faith in Bug Delver. Yeah, and this we've seen sort of how resilient Elves can be. I think it really showed how difficult the matchup can be against. For the Death Shadow side, Death Shadow has a difficult time punching in on the ground because Elves can just present infinite ground blockers, and you just really want Delver of Secrets to be as aggressive as possible. And if you just don't draw Delver, just sort of stuck for fighting on the ground. Hey, Romario?
Yes, okay. All right.
Well, I believe we're live. We're just looking at the Twitter poll right now.
All right. Let's see if I can pull up their deck list. It's Bob versus Mack, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to take a look at the deck list before. And Mack's on Mentalist Dredge, and Bob is on Death Shadow. All right.
Grixis Shadow, yep.
Grixis Shadow. Okay. Is it too loud? If you give me like 1 minute, I can go somewhere else. Is it too long?
No.
All right, just one second.
Danielle! Hey!
Yeah. One second.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, we have Bob Huang on Grixis Shadow coming up against Manaless Dredge, which on paper seems to be a pure race matchup, I imagine. It's going to be interesting to see whether Bob Huang can interact with, well, not necessarily interact, but just blatantly outrace him. Like, his deck does have a lot of velocity with Swift Spears and Baubles, so it can present a lot of early damage. Basically, Bob needs to be doing all of this before the Dredge engine gets too carried away. Again, he has Teamer Battle Rage to punch through a lot of ground blockers, so he has that angle as well. But with just running one copy, it might be a little bit difficult. A lot of zombie tokens can sort of fog the Death Shadows, the ground blockers, a lot like what we saw against Elves. Looking at Bob's list again, Thought Seizes are going to be pretty much a blank when the Manaless Dredge player is going second. Thoughtseize can effectively time walk Manaless Dredge when they're on the draw, when they were in the play, sorry. And looking at his sideboard, he does have some sort of like he has his surgical extractions, which of note are not the greatest against Manaless Dredge. Just because Manaless Dredge plays more Dredge cards than traditional Dredge decks. And as we saw against his match against Rudy, the Manaless Dredge match against Rudy, that surgical extraction can be a little bit ineffective when there's a lot of things that you need to take care of. But he does have that one Grafdigger's Cage, which will certainly be his best card post-board.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, a little bit less ambient noise, so that's good.
Yeah. With a baby, it's kind of hard sometimes to keep the noise down.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely appreciate that. So it looks like we're just kicking off here. What cards do you think that Bob Huang is looking for specifically in this kind of matchup? I assume just the cards with the most amount of velocity.
Yeah, and I guess in game one, he's just trying to beat Mack faster than he can combo or start making too many zombies.
Yeah.
And having a Delver in turn one seems like a fine start. The Force of Will might prevent Mack from comboing off, but I think Mack is probably I think his deck probably has a better game one.
I think it all depends on how fast the Dredge engine can get going. Like Dredge certainly can have hands that just sort of do nothing for the first few turns.
True, that's true.
Because it's very contingent on dredging important pieces. Like you need to be dredging like a certain amount of dredge cards and a certain number of bridges and disruption cards with Cabal Therapy to really get your zombie tokens pumping out. So,
the fact that Bob didn't flip his Delver in turn 1, and he's got 2 lands in hand. I think that's like really good news for Mack.
Yeah,
that's not a super fast start here, and he does have a Street Wraith in hand, which is a way for him to dredge that can get countered. And if Bob doesn't, now here's a question: if Mack plays a probe next turn, and you're Bob, do you force that?
I think you pretty much have to force the Gitaxian probe, because what else are you going to force?
Okay.
So it looks like Bob went ahead and pondered here. Sees probe, Force of Will, and Lightning Bolt. It's kind of interesting ponder. What do you take off this ponder here, if anything?
I don't know. I think maybe I would have taken the probe and probe him just to get a little bit more damage, because you know that your Delver is going to flip next turn regardless.
Yeah, I could see that. Also, like if you think you're gonna if you think that Mack has like a probe or something like that, you certainly want a blue card for your Force of Will to pitch.
Correct.
Okay, so it looks like he's just going to take the Force of Will here. So he knows he's drawing probe and then Lightning Bolt.
Right. So yeah, his next draw is a probe, and I guess he's going to force this probe. Yes, that's exactly what he's going to do. And it's funny because like Bob's his deck, like by nature he deals a lot of damage to himself.
Mm-hmm.
So like, let's see what. Okay, so he does have a Dread Return in the graveyard already, and a Phantasmagorian.
Yeah, I think forcing this probe though is definitely correct.
Correct.
Like any competent manaless dredge player is not going to fire off the Dread Return unless they know the coast is clear.
Okay, so here it's kind of interesting. If Mack actually discards the prize Almagun with the Narcomoeba triggers on the stack, he gets it back like this turn.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't. Because he does have a Phantasmagoria in the graveyard.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Okay, well he missed that, I guess.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, because he could have discarded. Yeah, he could have discarded the Amalgam and some additional dredge cards, maybe the Therapy, and then get the Amalgam back at the end of turn as a blocker for the Swift Spear.
It could be that because it would come to play tapped, but
that's right. Yeah.
But it still would be a creature that would be already he'll be looking at 2 Icorids plus Almagun plus 2 Narcomoebas next turn to swing back, which it's a lot of damage. Let's see.
He hasn't hit any bridges yet, though.
Right. That is kind of bad too. So Bob's gonna probe and he's gonna find the Lightning Bolt that he left on top.
Yeah, these Narcomoebas are going to be pretty annoying for Bob here, I think, just because he can't punch and damage with his Delver.
Correct. Also, see here, Bob decided to pay mana because he knows what he's drawing, so he's not. It doesn't really matter. He doesn't have a Death Shadow in play right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So yeah, we know who he's gonna find. He's gonna find a Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, and it makes sense just hard casting the probe here too, because again you don't have any Death Shadows in play,
right?
Or coming up that you know of, so there's no point in taking life loss for no reason.
Yeah.
So here's the next question: Do you decide to bolt one of these Narcomoebas to punch and damage this turn because one of your attackers will be able to get through?
I think that is a fine line since he doesn't have bridges yet. So, I mean, it works like as a normal removal spell, I guess. He might try to swing, and then if Mack decides to double block, then he can bolt one of them and get both of them out. And it looks like so he's just gonna block with one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Mack is suspecting a Lightning Bolt. That seems like a fine block too.
Yeah, I think Mack is in decent shape in this game too, because Bob just doesn't have the pressure. He has this Narcomoeba to fog an attacker next turn. As long as Mack mills into some bridges, I think he'll be pretty far ahead by his next turn.
Correct. Yeah, and he's going to be able to bring back 2 Icarus this turn and the Nether Shadow. He can actually just discard his entire hand except for Phantasmagoria, I guess. I'm trying to look at everything that's in his graveyard, which it's more important than what's in his board right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he just discards his entire hand except for the Phantasmagoria. Or maybe he can just put a Phantasmagoria in the graveyard and leave the Stinkweed Imp in his hand. That way he can kind of loop the Phantasmagorias.
He has a Dread Return in the graveyard, right?
He does.
Okay, so basically he just needs to find bridges here in his next dredge to sort of go off. Because he also has the Cabal Therapy in his hand as well, which he can discard it with a Phantasmagorium if he needs to.
Yeah, to see if the coast is clear to go off. Okay, and yeah, he basically discarded his whole hand except for the Cabal Therapy.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. He does have another Phantasmagoria, so he can just discard if you wanted to. Yeah, he can discard his entire hand again.
Yeah, Mack just wants to find bridges on this next dredge here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And these Icarids are going to punch pretty hard, too.
Yeah, it is 7 damage this turn if he wants to. And at 11 life, I think that's pretty safe. And if he does find a bridge, then he gets to attack for 7 and hold back some blockers. Dredging another Narcomeal is also not bad. Even if he doesn't find another bridge, because it looks like he's got enough creatures in the graveyard to bring back the Icarus like at least one more time.
Yeah, and the Snark Amoeba is just a really annoying blocker for Bob's Delver Secrets.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. So Mack's going to his draw, and he's going to dredge. And he found 1 bridge and another Icarid. Okay. Yeah, this is looking really good for him.
Yeah, so he might be able to win this turn if he needs to.
No, he doesn't have the Vampire. He does have the Whirlpool Rider. He's playing the Whirlpool Rider. Okay. Yes. Yeah. He could. Yeah. He possibly win this turn. So he probably just attack just for good measure, I guess. See if Bob does anything.
Well, he knows that Bob only has 1 card in hand too, so.
Yeah, the worst it could be, it's a Daze.
Right. Like, regardless, I think it's.
Go ahead.
I think that the only draw that really scares him in this spot is maybe Temur Battle Rage.
True. Yeah. So I think he should name Daze here, right? Or I don't. Yeah. I think Daze is the only thing that he's scared of right now.
Yeah, well, he knows that Bob's not running any Spell Pierces, so.
True. He does have 2 Dread Returns in the graveyard, so if the first one... Yeah, he named Daze. All right, and so now he knows the coast is clear, and...
Yeah, he can reanimate this Whirlpool Rider.
Yeah, and then dredge roughly his entire deck. Yeah, it's an interesting card. Like, yeah, that's cool that Mike just enlarged it.
Yeah, not too many people are familiar with this one. In the version of Dredge that runs more blue cards for Force of Will, it makes a little bit more sense. I think more commonly it's just the Balustrade Spy Pact. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, if you play it's Force of Will in the shoal, the blue shoal. So, all right, so he's going to dredge. Oh, all right, there's a Flayer there. Yeah, I think that's game now.
Yeah.
Golgari Grave Troll is going to be large enough to. I don't know if I can call it fling, but to kill Bob here. Oh, he's also got a Gristlebrand too. Okay. He could go for style points.
Yeah, so Mack is just completely going off here.
Yeah, he's just going through the motions here, and yeah, he's got what 15 cards left in his deck, or 16. Can't really see from here. But that's not necessary. He's just gonna try to return the Flayer, and then
yeah, Flayer is gonna be instantly lethal. Kind of an interesting game, though. Like, it was kind of interesting how Mack was able to present all these kind of annoying blockers for what Bob was trying to do. like those early game Narcomoebas were certainly annoying for Bob because like obviously all he wants to do is race and punch and damage as fast as he can, right?
Right, and it saved him a lot of damage by blocking it.
Yeah. So we're going to the sideboard.
Yeah, so Bob's got well, Snuff Out's doesn't really do anything here. Force of Wills.
It can kill Narcomoebas though.
It can kill Narcomoebas for the low price of 4 for life. So we see Mack looked like his sideboard 2 Nether Shadows, and he brought in his Force of Wills.
Which makes sense to me. Like there's only a few core cards out of Bob's list that he really cares about, like the Teamer Battle Rage in an emergency where he needs to force that can be a thing, or the Grafdigger's Cage. Like I'm actually kind of interested about the Disrupting Shoals though. Like I'm just interested in what matchups you would board those in, because Disrupting Shoal seems like kind of all right against this kind of deck too.
Right. Oh, so look. All right. So look at their hands here. Bob's got Thoughtseize and Inquisition, which I really like versus Manaless Dredge. Really, it's almost like a time walk.
Yeah, when Manaless. Sorry, go ahead.
It looks like Bob drew a cage too. So this might be a quick one.
Yeah, the Manaless Dredge deck basically can't beat a Resolve Cage in any kind of universe. So.
Yeah, unless he had Bob has also got a Daze backup. So even if
he had the Force of Will. Yeah. So this is just going to be lights out.
Yeah, I think he's just going to scoop here, right? Yep. Okay. Yeah. That was a quick one. All right, so Bob figured out how to beat Mack, like just maul into a Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, well, we saw the game that Rudy played earlier, that he was basically trying to achieve the same thing, but of course, Rudy isn't quite as lucky as Bob Huang is. So,
so it didn't work out for him.
Didn't quite work out the same way.
All right, so Bob's hand looks interesting.
I think Bob's hand right now is like pretty bad. Like,
yeah, he can possibly time walk him twice, and it looks like he kept it. All right.
Just banking on the fact that you can time walk him.
Yeah. I mean, he does have a shadow, and he can do 4 damage to himself. Well, of course, the bubble doesn't draw into the next turn, so we don't know what he's going to draw.
Yeah, it's very much possible that I don't know enough about Bob's Death Shadow deck, but to me, like on paper, this seems like kind of a risky keep. Like especially without any cantrips or anything to go along with these time walk effects. Like, right. As the way the hand is right now, like you can only keep Mack off from doing what he's doing for so long, for basically 2 turns, right?
Right.
And like he's not going to be able to cast his Death Shadow because he won't be able to loan up life total. And
it looks like so Mack drew the Force of Will, and he does have an Narcomoeba or Prize Almagon to pitch to it. So
yeah, but he's not going to want to force though, because he'll just be down on cards too much.
Yeah, no, I was just saying in case if Bob tries to play a cage, then he has to force.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, for sure.
And Bob doesn't have any kind of magic right now.
But he did draw a Brainstorm off that last Mishra's Baubles, so.
True. So Bob targeted himself with a bubble. It was kind of fast for me to see it. All right, so it looks like he's going to Inquisition him, and I'm not really sure what he'd take here. I guess he'd take Narcomoeba. I don't know if there's any. There's no real good targets for Inquisition. Well, I guess he doesn't really looking for a good target. He's just looking for something just to take a card out of Mack's hand, so he doesn't start dredging.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I like taking the Narcomoeba here for sure.
All right, so Mack is still okay. Let's see. So Bob's at 14 already. So and he's got a Shock Land in hand. So this Nether Shadow can come down. I mean, not Nether Shadow. Death Shadow can come down as a 11/11. I mean, a 1/1.
Yeah, he can also cast his Gurmag Angler in his hand now too, right?
Yeah, he can. Yeah. Yep. He might be a better clock. Yeah. Let's see how Bobby wants to go about his turn. He might be deciding if he wants to play a brainstorm, but I don't think.
I think I like just playing a threat here.
Yeah, he might just. Okay, so he's going to brainstorm off of the Steam vents, and
yeah, I think the reason why he's choosing to brainstorm here is because he's seeing how much damage he can deal himself over the next couple of turns. So if he's determining whether it's more efficient for him to play the Death Shadow here or the Gurmag Angler.
Yeah. Well, so he's got another 6 damage in hand, right? Is it? Can he just kill? No, let me see, because he can do 4 damage to himself next turn of the 2 Street Wraiths. Okay, so he decided to go with just Thoughtseize now.
Well, he knows that Thoughtseize is going to act as another time walk here, so you can just sort of play this out at his leisure, right?
Right. Yeah. So he took the Forcible this time. Yeah, and Mack is like, like we see the discard spells, like, just make. I mean, this is what, turn 4 already. He hasn't even dredged yet.
Yeah, and Bob's going to be able to play this Death Shadow as a 7/7.
Right. Well, unfortunately, he drew like a Volcanic, which is not another black source, but
yeah, he was hoping to draw another black source there so he could punch out the Death Shadow and the Gurmag Angler and then swing in for lethal next turn. But
it looks like he's going to have to wait one more turn. Wow. All right, so he drew a Dread Return that doesn't, yeah,
so Mack finally gets a discard here. So he's discarding a Dredger.
Yeah, that Golgari Grave Troll is going to have to dredge really well for Mack to get out of this one.
Oh, wow. Fetch land here is a huge draw, too, because he can fetch, shock himself down to 3.
Is that lethal now? No.
Yeah, that's lethal damage, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's 10-10. Teamer Battle Rage 2020.
Casually swing for 20. Wow.
That was
they kind of went like the way you expect when Dredge plays against a blue deck. Game 1 I feel like any type of Dredge deck's kind of favored versus Delver decks in game 1, and then game 2 and 3 that's when you really see a game, because if the Delver deck draws their hate, you gotta see how Dredge is gonna be able to play around it. In this case, in game 2, Mack didn't have an answer to Cage, and then game 3, Bob just kept time walking him with Thoughtseize and Inquisitions.
Yeah, the discard was like certainly super powerful because Bob just basically got to be able to set up the perfect situation where he was able to play his most efficient threat and then pump it up for lethal with Teamer Battle Rage, which kind of surprises me too. Like, I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, obviously Bob knows better than I do, but it's interesting that he only runs 1 copy of Teamer Battle Rage in the list. Like, we saw how hard against Elves it was for him to deal damage with Elves' ability to pump out like infinite ground blockers.
Right.
So I'm kind of interested why Bob only chooses to run 1 copy of Teamer Battle Rage. Like, it seems to me like it's one of the stronger cards in the deck.
Definitely, yeah. It'd be interesting to hear from him, like, after the group stage is done, like, why the configuration was like that. Oh, okay, so we have here the Book of Bob.
Yeah, it's pretty good. How do you feel about like Manaless Dredge versus like regular Dredge in the Legacy metagame going forward?
I like Mana Dredge better, because I really like what we saw in game 2. Like, Manaless Dredge is so fragile to any kind of like permanent graveyard hate. Like Ley Lines or Rest in Peace, just straight up like you have to scoop and you can't really play.
Yeah, I think I agree with you too. Like, I think the issue with Mana Dredge before the Sensitized Divining Top ban was that Miracles could easily defeat Mana Dredge because it just had, like, if you just countered their key spells and like kept them off balance with Terminus long enough, then Miracles could get it done. Where Manaless Dredge was like harder for Miracles to interact with because it just had so many key cards like Death with like Dread Returns and therapies. Like, it was actually a very difficult matchup. So I think Mana Dredge might be the stronger version, but like, I haven't. Obviously, I'm not a Dredge expert, and I haven't looked too much into it. But that's just what it looks like to me on paper.
Yeah, well, right now, like 90% of the time I play Legacies online, and every once in a while, like, I'm just curious to see how the decks work, and then I'll play Dredge for like a few leagues, and from what I've seen, like before Black and Red Reanimator became a thing, your Menela's Dredge was kind of bad because, again, there were more permanent type of graveyard hate. So you would see the Priest and Rest in Peace and Ley Lines. Sometimes you'd see Nihil Spellbomb and stuff like that. But then when Black and Red Reanimator became a thing, people switched from Rest in Peace and like all the like permanent graveyard hate to
Surgical
Fairy Macabres and Surgical Extractions, yes. Because you had to have an answer like on turn 0. So that it kind of changed like how Dredge has to deal with graveyard hate.
Yeah, and looking at the results here, so looks like the Twitter poll got it right. The Julian sort of swept up this this leg here. Obviously, it's very rigged for Julian.
Yeah, we see like Bob got second place with his I guess we call it a brew. We haven't seen that shadow being played in Legacy since I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago. And Mack finishing third with a Manaless Dredge, which good result, and Rudy finishing fourth. And yeah, it looks like Twitter got it very right. I was a little disappointed because they got it wrong for me last week when they had me in third place and I finished in fourth. So disappointed, Twitter. All right, and looks like that's it for us for tonight. Oops.
I'd just like to take a moment and thank our sponsors, Card Hoarders and Cardamajigs, and Matt Pavlik. Without you, the stream wouldn't be possible, and we're very grateful that you allowed us to do this. So thank you all very much. And we have another little Easter egg after this message.
Hi, I'm here with Legacy Master Julian Knab, and here we're today to talk about Elves and his really cool elf deck. So can you explain what this deck is?
It's a very good elf deck. You play your cover with Behemoth, and then you attack with all of your Clarion Rangers.
So what would you say, in your opinion, Mr. Julian, is quite possibly the hardest matchup to overcome this deck? Because it's a creature-based deck, but in Legacy there are a lot of unfair things at the moment. What would you say is the hardest thing for elves to overcome?
I'm happy that you asked me, because I think LOL Terminus is the worst matchup that we have in Legacy.
What do you think about Dig Through Time?
Don't get me started, we should ban it right now.
What is your favorite card in the entire elf deck? Like, if you had to pick one card that gets you truly excited when you're playing this deck, what would be your most excitable creature?
That's you coming.
Get more going. Just gonna breathe. Just breathe in and out.
You said something?
What would be your favorite creature in the entire deck?
The big guy who does with the such opponents.
Well, how do you feel about the interaction between Nettle Sentinel and
It's just cute. Don't need it.
Starting to get a headache. How do you feel how natural order slots into this deck?
It's kind of an unnecessary evil because you can only play 2 behemoth because they're too good. If you play 4, you will get disqualified from the tournament. So this is a workaround to play more behemoth effectively.
That's a fair point, Mr. Knab. And finally, how much do you like Glimpse of Nature?
It's the best card ever. You can play 4 copies, and I'm running out of helium. We need more helium.
We'll edit this heavily. And so, Julian, in the side event, how did you do?
Oh, I split the finals.
Oh, that's excellent.
Most excellent.
So how do you beat, say, the Merfolk deck, especially when it's playing Chalice at one?
Oh, that was so funny. She played Chosen One, and I was like, Glimpse of Nature, Reserves.
And then what happened after that?
Then she counted all of my apps, but I had the Glimpse trigger, so I drew my entire deck.
Excellent. What would you also say is your matchup in something like Nourishing Shoal Infect? Or Blazing Shoal Infect? Blazing Shoal Infect.
See, I was so glad I could avoid the matchup because we tested it for the most part of the year and we just couldn't figure it out. They would sometimes just kill you on turn 2, and even though you had the counter spell, you just couldn't cast it.
Doesn't that make any sense to you?
That's funny. What about the Grixis Control matchup?
Well, you could just get more helium.
We'll talk about your pin down. And so, Mr. Knapp, we noticed that your deck is also pimped. How would you describe its level of pimping?
It's about level 9000 pimp. It's ultimate pimp. The only thing that isn't fully pimped is the beta value, but I'm gonna steal them from you tonight.
That's unfortunate. Oh, also the forests, which are just unhinged.
Now we play real pimp. We don't play white bordered fucking summer pimp.
Oh,
That's not how we do it.
That's too bad. That's all we got.
You ask about more helium.
How is your matchup against helium?
Maybe you should use 2 balloons.
Who was your... And one last question for you, Julian. What was your favorite matchup the entire weekend to play against? The player, the deck?
My favorite matchup.
The guy.
I played against Miracles. We play Sensitive Riding Club. I play Cross Grip. We play Sensitive Riding Club. I play Cross Grip. We play Sensitive Riding Club.
I play choke.
You can't use Sensitive Riding Club anymore.
And I'm really feeling a little bit lightheaded right now.
So congratulations on your recent success.
Thank you so much.
Nice to speak to you again.
Oh God.